Hi guys. For those of you that are in, we're gonna wait a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds while everyone gets loaded in and get started real soon. Excited to share some information with you guys. Okay, good afternoon, Hilltoppers, and welcome to this afternoon's LiveWellSEU webinar. Today, we're pleased to share information with you on the university's commitment to student well-being through a number of our services. Carrie Mays is going to run the slides for me, so when you hear me say slide, that's not information that you need to remember. That's me asking Carrie to move the slide for me. So it'll work like this: slide. Yay! Today's webinar should take just under an hour. For logistics, we have enabled, I believe we've enabled your ability to ask questions through the chat feature on Zoom. And I encourage you guys to do so. And I'd encourage you to ask those as those questions come up. Our team, some of us will answer them in the moment, and the rest of us who can't do two things at once, will answer those at the end of our presentation. Before we kick off, introduce ourselves and get started, we will have a special welcome for our Vice President of Student Affairs, Dr. Lisa Kirkpatrick. Slide.
Thank you, Andy. And I just want to say good afternoon, Hilltoppers. My name is Lisa Kirkpatrick, and I'm your Vice President for Student Affairs, and I'm also your Title IX Coordinator. Students call me Dr. K, so I hope you'll do the same. And by now, you have been likely welcomed enough times that you've gone well beyond your fingers and your toes. But I have to say that to you now. Welcome to the Hilltop. Those words are important because we cherish our community here, and we are one big family. And you now have officially joined our Hilltopper family. So welcome. Now, I have a feeling that because this is all so new to you, you may not quite feel like this is your home away from home yet, whether that be in virtual space or literally here on the hilltop. But I promise that eventually it's going to. You are here because we believe in you. Each of you brings gifts that we need in our community. Each of you belong here at St. Edward's. And each of you will make significant contributions to our Hilltopper family because of the gifts and the talents that you bring. So I've been here at St. Edward's for 26 years. I know I don't look that old. I can tell you with complete confidence that your college experience will transform you. And the faculty and our staff and your fellow students are all about supporting your student success. But I need you to hear me. Your college degree and your total student experience, your college career with us, is not just about you. It is so much more than that. Each of you have a purpose on the planet right now. And you may not know what it is yet. That's okay. Coming to St. Edward's is going to help you discover your purpose in the world. The world needs you, each of you, in your own way, to become a leader, to make positive change, and to share your gifts with the planet, with humanity. So your education at St. Edward's has meaning. It is at this time, and believe it or not, in this environment, where you can figure out who you are, who you will become, and what your contributions to the world community can be. Let me say something about this historical moment that you are entering into as you become a Hilltopper. It likely feels surreal. I know it does for me. We're meeting one another in Zoom, in face coverings, with air handshakes and air hugs, 6 feet apart. We're talking about creating bubbles with new friends and making agreements to keep each other safe, about how you'll spend time with new and old friends, socially distanced. And on top of the pandemic, our world has brought forward into the light the horrors of racism and the need to make systemic change so that all of us, no matter the color of our skin, can live well, and so that each of us can fulfill the dreams that we have. These are challenging times, there is no doubt. And quite frankly, it's okay to be unsettled, uncomfortable, and unsure about everything. But I want you to know that we are in this together. We have to be loving and kind to one another, and we must take responsibility for each other. Whether you're in a res hall, in the apartments, live in an off-campus but in Austin, or somewhere else at home maybe. I expect each of you as members of our community, no matter where you are, to care enough about all of us and make the commitment to be kind to one another, to respect one another, to say hello to one another, and to look out for one another, whether you know each other or not. You have been and will continue to hear from many of our staff and our faculty about ways you can show up for each other in our community, to be a good bystander, to challenge racist behaviors and microaggressions, to remind one another to wear your mask, wash your hands, stay 6 feet apart, to do your daily screening. We all have to lean into this and be the best versions of ourselves that we can be together. What you do impacts other people. That's what the hashtag LiveWellSEU commitment is all about. All of you, the collective you, the incoming class of 2020, you all are resilient. I'm going to beat my desk. You're strong. You've already been through so much just to get here today in this Zoom space. I congratulate each of you. I also have construction going out back behind me, and I apologize for the noise. But I congratulate each of you on all that you've accomplished to be here today. I want to close with 3 pieces of advice for you, and then I'll turn it over to the real superheroes in just a moment. Here's the recipe for success for you at St. Edward's. Number 1, know your resources. That's why you're participating in the online orientations, the anchors, the meetings with your RDs and your RAs, your success coaches, your orientation leaders, your anchors leaders, your faculty and staff. All of that is to learn about the resources that are right here at your fingertips, virtually or in person. And the LiveWellSEU initiative brings all those resources together. So know your resources, number 1. Number 2, the second thing you've got to do is ask for help when you need it. None of us have gotten through life successfully without the help from others. And you will hear about some of those resources and the people who are here to help you very shortly. And number 3, get connected online and in person. Get involved in student organizations. Apply for a student leader position. Apply for an SEU job in Handshake online. You can do that as soon as we get done with this scenario here. An internship. Join a wellness event online or in person through RecWell. Attend a program through Residence Live, student involvement, or diversity and inclusion. Even if you have to quarantine or isolate, because some of you are and will, if you feel well enough, you can still stay connected virtually. We are here for you in person and in this new virtual world. So know your resources, ask for help, and get connected. And finally, if there's anything I said that you'd like to talk more about, or if I just seem cool and you'd like to get to know me better, sometimes that happens, I'm inviting you to join me in Zoom on Mondays at 5 o'clock, starting in September, to check in, catch up, and learn about how each of you are surviving and thriving as a Hilltopper. You can watch for more information. Also, you can stop by my office in person. I'm in the ground floor of Moody Hall. I'm here all the time. You can come by, knock, have your face covering on, show me your digital badge. We're good to go, and I want to get to know you better. We can also do this in Zoom. So know that we're all here for you. And remember, St. Edward's isn't just a 4-year experience, but it's a 4-life experience. And we're so excited that you've decided to join St. Edward's family, and we're excited to walk alongside you in your journey. So now I'll turn it over to Andy Lemons, Director of RecWell, one of our many superheroes on campus. And just again, so happy you're here.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. And I just want to let everyone know that with the role that I have as the Director of Recreation and Wellness does not come technology savviness, and I have had computer issues for the entire time that we have been working remote. So for my students, if you see this, you will likely hear one of my colleagues step in while I am rebooting my computer. So we figure it's better to tell you that up front than for you to just experience that. But Carrie, if you can hit the next slide for me. Appreciate, and go ahead and hit it again. Appreciate everything Lisa shared with you guys. And as she referenced, our campus is committed to your well-being. The work we do to support our students is done through this lens of our LiveWellSEU initiative. And it's designed to help our Hilltoppers learn to take care of themselves so that when you leave us, you can go take on your world. Because we know students who thrive succeed academically, the work that we do to support student well-being is going to be vital to your success. And we're excited to share some of that information with you today. Slide, Carrie. Even before the world began dealing with the realities of a global pandemic, research studies indicated an alarming rise in a number of challenges related to student success. The American Collegiate Health Association has been evaluating student success through this lens of health and well-being for a number of years. What you're seeing on the screen here are some alarming statistics from the survey conducted in 2018. In 2020, this past fall, St. Edward's, or the 2020 year, I'm sorry, 2019 fall. I don't want to confuse anyone with the year 2020 anymore. It's just not the best year. But in fall of 2019, St. Edward's participated in this biannual assessment as well, so that we could get data points specific to our student population. While we're still analyzing our data, I can tell you that our preliminary results are indicated that our students are just as challenged by these topics as ones around the country. Why does this matter? And what do these challenges have to do with student success? Slide, Carrie. There's a direct impact that is felt by students who are struggling in their well-being on their academic success. When asked what barriers exist to succeeding in school, students reported a number of factors keep them from being successful. It is our goal through the LiveWellSEU initiative that we'll give you details on, that we remove these barriers to your success so that we help you reduce stress, reduce anxiety, help you with sleep difficulties, support you as you're living with depression, discuss work and finance. And my favorite is cold and flu, because this was clearly made before 2020. That should say cold, flu, COVID stress, because we all are feeling the stress of COVID these days. Slide. So in 2017, a group of faculty and staff spent over 2 years assessing, evaluating, researching, and inevitably proposing the LiveWellSEU model. Our vision was an initiative that reflected our culture, our goals, and was in alignment with our Holy Cross mission to educate students' hearts and minds. Additionally, we indicated that our initiative must have direct ties to student academic success and help you guys once you leave the university. To Lisa's point, it's a for-life experience, not a 4-year experience. And thus, LiveWellSEU was born. Slide. And so here it is. Well-being at St. Edward's University is a multidimensional, holistic, and active process by which students, faculty, and staff seek to thrive in mind, body, and spirit. We encourage the development of holistic well-being through the 8 dimensions of wellness listed here: physical, spiritual, emotional, financial, social, environmental, vocational, and intellectual. Please note, underneath each of our 8 dimensions, you will see skills to thrive. These are examples of skills or abilities students may enhance through participation in campus programs, in your classwork, and in just living and being on campus. It's important to note that our dimensions won't change, but our skills to thrive may vary depending on the needs of our students. If we've learned nothing since late February and early March, it's that the skills and abilities that we need to thrive are gonna have to adjust every day. My team would tell you my skills with technology need to evolve so that I can continue to thrive. Our overall approach, however, despite the fact that we are living with a pandemic, does not change as we continue to emphasize a holistic approach to your well-being and inevitably your academic success. Campus has a number of resources, offices, and student structures and support structures in place for each of our 8 dimensions for you as you begin to navigate the Hilltop this year. I'm going to list our 8 dimensions and maybe reference some offices that are directly in support of these different areas of your well-being. And I want to encourage you to find those offices on our website, search for them on social media, but also recognize that this is not every office that contributes to every area. We're more giving you a snapshot entry level. Next slide, please. So first up is our physical resources. I will talk to you at the end of today's webinar at length about access to the RAC and RecWell programs related to physical activity, but also recognize that we have a strong partnership that Dr. Pena will speak with you a little bit more in depth with Baylor Scott and White to have health services available to our campus community. We also have a varsity athletics program and a kinesiology major within BSS school that supports students looking for a career in a traditional physical experience. From a social standpoint, there's over 100 plus student organizations, and in any given normal and even COVID year, we'll host more than 250 plus campus events. And that says each year to be safe, but the reality is that is each semester when you start factoring in the number of student orgs, the number of departmental programs, and the number of opportunities you have to engage with your fellow Hilltoppers. Next slide. From an emotional well-being standpoint, I've referenced once our combined health and counseling center, and Vanessa will speak in depth about how students will be able to access counseling in crisis in-person scenarios, as well as telecounseling options that are available. The staff in our campus ministry department is trained to work with students in crisis, as well as our resident assistants go through an in-depth training over the last 2 weeks to prepare to help you as you're navigating the transition to college from an emotional standpoint as well. And then throughout your 4 years, the Dean of Students office is here with a strong welfare team to help support you in any number of situations that may arise that are presenting barriers to you having positive emotional well-being and being successful. From an intellectual standpoint, I think we all first believe and think of our academic coursework as our intellectual opportunity in college, and that is true. The work that you will get in your classroom is amazing, and the relationships you have the opportunity to develop with the faculty on the Hilltop can be life-changing. I will also encourage you to visit our Student Diversity and Inclusion office. I think we all experienced a very difficult and eye-opening summer, and engaging around equity, diversity, and inclusion and becoming anti-racist is the challenge and the work for all of us. And I know that the Diversity and Inclusion Office will play a large role in that, and that will stretch us intellectually to become better versions of ourselves. And you're in Austin, so thinking about internship opportunities that you may have, volunteer opportunities that you may have, just the ability to go and explore a world-class city like Austin is an opportunity to enhance your intellectual well-being as well. Next slide, please. From a spiritual standpoint, we are a Catholic institution. We do have a chapel right here on campus. It's also connected to the home of our campus ministry department. But campus ministry would be very upset with me if I were to give the impression that campus ministry is about Catholicism only. It is not. Campus ministry is very much supportive of all students of any faith, and is very much in the belief that spiritual development is a key development for all of us, regardless of our religious or faith backgrounds. They do a large number of mission-based work around service. The university's very popular service break experience program is run out of the campus ministry office, and you are certainly not required to be Catholic to serve your fellow man. And then additionally, campus ministry is really good about supporting students of various faith and has an interfaith council that works to support students from all backgrounds. The campus itself has a number of physical spaces for reflection. I encourage 2 spots. I myself am not a practicing Catholic, but the Grotto with the view of downtown is a very wonderful, quiet, reflective space where you can get some quiet time to yourself outside, as well as the meditation garden located right next to our chapel, just north of the business building, Trustee Hall. From an environmental standpoint, the university has a sustainability office. You've likely already seen your recycling and composting bins both near our Bonap food service as well as in your residence halls. And I also want to call your attention to a partnership we have at the Wild Basin Creative Research Center about 10 miles from campus, where you actually can go and do undergraduate research. If you're a sciences major, you can also, Wild Basin staff will help get you out to Wild Basin. They host yoga classes in the evening, but it's a 300-acre preserve that's an amazing partnership to connect with nature that's co-owned by the institution. Next slide, please. And wrapping up, let's touch real quick on our financial and vocational resources. Student Financial Services is an office here that will help you understand your loans, maybe get you connected with potential on-campus jobs, and be there to support you as you're trying to navigate both personal finances now and beyond after you leave the university. And I also point out that from a financial education standpoint, there are a number of offices that support students, whether it's student officer training or wellness workshops that will help you understand financial management. We realize that oftentimes we go to college and we don't even think about all of these things about the quote real world, and we realize that there's a big gap. And so we're trying to address that with some financial education for you. And then vocational, sometimes you would see this in a wellness model called occupational. St. Ed's went with vocational because a job is not a calling. And St. Ed's is hoping to create graduates who are passionate about a calling. And so we help you find a vocation. The primary office that most of us think about when it comes to job searching and post-grad life is the Career and Professional Development Office. They are ready to see you now, both in person and virtual. And so I encourage you as first-time students to reach out to that office and get connected early, but also recognize that there's on-campus student employment opportunities where you'll get job skills. There's student trainings where you can develop job skills. Even undergraduate research and internship opportunities will help you prepare for that next step. Next slide, please. Excuse me. We know it's a lot of information that I just threw at you, but we find it valuable to share that with new members to our community, that you understand the breadth and scope of the campus supports we have for you. Each office, department, staff, and faculty on campus, as Lisa had already referenced for you, is invested in your individual success. And we know you must thrive in your well-being to succeed. And I need you to hear that. You must be thriving to succeed. Finding ways to thrive this year could be difficult. They can be scary. I need you to be brave and vulnerable, and be scared, and be willing to step out of your room and come meet the environment and engage in the opportunities to your level of comfort. And so I encourage you to do that and recognize that those of us that are here as faculty and staff are ready to help you in that journey and wanting to take that journey with you. I want to see and interact with a human just as much as you do. And so I encourage you to think about those resources, think of yourself from a holistic standpoint, and do the work to engage with your community. Part of our goal is to help you understand our university's commitment to well-being. And a large part of this lies in our approach to taking care of each other. You're entering a community with a large number of fellow students, faculty, and staff, and we are all responsible for the health and safety of each other. So we're going to talk to you now about a topic that can be somewhat challenging, but extremely important, and that's suicide awareness. We know that for many people, mental health struggles are very real and very challenging. And for some, these challenges can lead to suicidal thoughts and ideation. Today, we're going to show you some quick and easy steps so that you can be prepared to support your fellow Hilltoppers. It's also important to note that suicide ideation is unfortunately more common than we would like to admit. There is no doubt there are people on this call with over 450 of us that have friends, family, loved ones, teammates, or even they themselves have struggled with suicidal thoughts. We want to make sure that we make all Hilltoppers aware of ways we can support each other. Slide, Carrie. To frame our discussion around suicide awareness, let's take a look at this agenda real quick. And before we get started, I want to re-emphasize that suicidal thoughts and ideation training can be triggering for those who have survived a suicide attempt or have loved ones who have attempted or completed suicide. Please know that if you're in a community, that you are in a community that right now will support you. And if you need to speak with someone, we are ready to take that call right now. So we are available to you. This is one of the challenges with Zoom. We can't see all of your faces, but if you're hearing me and you're feeling the need to get some help, you can reach out and get that help in this moment right now. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to look at myths and facts around suicide, look at some troubling warning signs to watch for, and then speak a little bit about what to do should you see some of those warning signs. Next slide, please. So Carrie, on this one, when I say slide, we're going to have different things pop up on the screen. So let's do suicide myths and facts. Slide. No one can stop a suicide. It is inevitable. If we believed that, we wouldn't spend time talking to you about that, about this right now. Slide, Carrie. If someone is in crisis and gets
It looks like Andy lost the internet connection, but luckily I can finish this slide and we will keep on going through it. Let me turn to my video. Hey everyone. So a fact, if someone is in crisis, gets help and they need it, they may be better equipped to handle the crisis in the future. That is true on suicide prevention. The key here is making sure that they get help to handle the crisis. Myth. Confronting a person about suicide will only make them angry and increase the risk of suicide. Fact. Asking someone directly about suicide intent lowers anxiety, opens up communication, and lowers the risk of an impulsive act. Myth. Only experts can prevent suicide. Here's the fact. Suicide prevention is everybody's business, and anyone can help prevent the tragedy of suicide. So we don't want you to think that you have to be an expert. Anybody can practice the key components of KPR and be that person that helps a person prevent the strategy of suicide. Myth. Suicidal people keep their plans to themselves. Here's the fact. Most experienced suicidal ideation communicate their intent sometime prior to the attempt. What this means is someone may have left a note, someone may have given away some prized possessions. They may be attempting to communicate their attempt to have suicide without explicitly stating it. And so they generally make sure that they express this to people in some sort of way. Myth. Those who talk about suicide don't do it. The fact. People who do talk about suicide may actually attempt to do suicide. And this is really important to make sure you're paying attention to students or people who may say they are attempting to do suicide and take that statement very seriously. Myth. Only a person decides to attempt suicide. There is nothing anyone can do to stop them. Fact. Suicide is the most preventable kind of death, and almost any positive action will save a life. Let's read that again. Almost any positive action may save a life.
Okay, Carrie, I think I can pop back in here again until they boot me off again. So apologize for that, and thanks for everybody's patience. So as we look for, so we share myths and facts so that we kind of destigmatize this idea that there are certain beliefs about suicide and that it's a very uncommon thing and that people aren't really giving clues to these things. But the reality is we often see clues, either direct or indirect. And so we threw a couple onto the slide here. These are things you might hear pretty commonly. I've decided to kill myself is about the most obvious clue that you need to step in and do some work with somebody. But oftentimes we hear other things, especially in high stress situations. Oh my gosh, this is so bad, I wish I was dead. And sometimes we don't respond to that. I think even more common is we hear, if X, Y, and Z doesn't happen, I'm going to kill myself. I think in college, I may have said this every Saturday during the football season. You know, if my team doesn't win, I'm going to kill myself, and not even thinking about the impact of a statement like that. But the reality is we hear that around people taking tests, people taking quizzes, and we don't even stop to think about, is this something where I need to check in? But I would challenge everyone that, yeah, we should check in on each other and say, wait a minute, let's stop. Carrie, is that really what you mean? And in all likelihood, Carrie may say no. But I would challenge you, what if Carrie said, actually, yeah. You know, and you being willing to step up then has now given us the opportunity to help save Carrie's life in that moment. So let's make sure that we're not just blowing off direct verbal clues as chit chat amongst friends. And then you can see indirect verbal clues. I'm tired of life. I can't go on. My friends are better off without me. I just went out. I won't be around much longer, so don't worry about it. And sometimes we ignore those too. Where are you going? Are you transferring to another school? Are you going back home? Is your living situation not good? But we oftentimes don't necessarily think, oh, you're just not going to be here with us at all. And so again, these are some clues that might make you think, oh, I've heard something that seems out of character or that seems a difficult statement. I'm gonna address that. I'm not going to shy away from a tough conversation with a classmate. Next slide, please. Behavior clues. So these are things folks do instead of say, right? The largest behavior clue that might prompt you to take action would be a previous suicide attempt. Acquiring a gun. Now, this is Texas, so that doesn't always necessarily mean that we're looking at a suicide attempt, unless it was someone who didn't have a gun and had never had a gun and never wanted a gun, and all of a sudden decided, today is the day I'm going to exercise my right and get a gun. So being aware of the behavior clues that might be out of character. Also being aware if you're privileged to that information or someone has been willing to share the ideations around depression, mental health disorders, moodiness or hopelessness, someone putting their personal affairs in order or giving away prized possessions can be a trigger that there may be something different going on there, or unexplained anger, aggression, and irritability. A lot of these traits that we're talking about in behavior clues, I myself have expressed a number of times since March. And I think a lot of us have expressed a number of these things since March. And so while the clues haven't changed, I do want to tell you that someone being unexplained, having unexplained irritability might be because they've been on Zoom for 8 hours a day. And so I tell you that just to be real about the situation that we're in. But also, that doesn't mean that you're alleviated from the responsibility of being aware of those clues and calling yourself to action should you need to call yourself to action. Slide. Situational clues. So instead of behaviors that someone is behaving in, these are situations that you might be aware of for someone that you care about. If they're fired or if they get expelled or suspended from school, if they're failing or struggling very much academically and their academic success kind of defines them. Diagnosis of a terminal illness, fear of being a burden or loss of freedom or financial security. Again, a lot of these things are now conflating our regular daily experience as we're all living through a pandemic. But these situational clues by themselves may not lead to suicide ideation, but let's add a situational clue of loss of financial security to some behavioral clues around stockpiling of pills, to some mental health issues that you know an individual has. Either they've had a suicide attempt themselves in the past or in the family, or they've lost a loved one, and you start building a number of different things that make you pause and say, hey, do I need to step in here and do something? Do I need to see if Carrie needs a little bit of help in this situation? So you build all of these pieces together and just don't ignore behavior change and statements that folks are making, because it could mean something more. Next slide. So what do you do when you start seeing the conflation of all of these traits together? How do we move forward? What's your responsibility? Just to say, hey, I think Carrie may have some suicidal thoughts, and then go to class? Absolutely not. That's not what we would do. So the university has a number of QPR training members on campus, facilitators. Carrie is one of those, so he was able to step into this, but we offer an hour-long training to train people around QPR. QPR stands for question, persuade, and refer. And that's basically what we're asking community members to do when it comes to recognize suicidal ideation in our community. So the first thing is ask the question. Once you've witnessed those clues or seen the changed behaviors or noticed some of the behavioral or situational clues that we referenced, don't be afraid to ask the question. I would rather be uncomfortable than Carrie be dead. And I know that that's a very blunt and very in-your-face statement, but I would rather be uncomfortable and ask Carrie, have you been having suicidal thoughts, than for me to never ask and not have the opportunity to. And so the worst thing that happens and the biggest barrier to asking the question is the person's response. You know, would they be angry at me? Would they be frustrated with the way that I asked that question? It's a risk that you need to take, okay? What happens if when we ask the question, they say yes, you know, because there's some shock to that when that comes back. First thing you got to do is acknowledge that suicide is not the problem, and saying you can't kill yourself, I'd be so sad, is not the solution. Suicide is an action that someone takes when they believe that there is a problem that is unsolvable. And so what we need to do is listen to the person and then ask them if we can help them get help to help solve whatever problem they're dealing with. And so I think when we think about it that way, it removes this idea that we're solving the problem of suicide. And what we're really doing is getting to the core of what someone is struggling with and getting them to the professional help that they need in order to move forward. And so recognizing that we're not solving suicide, I think makes it easier, at least for me, to try to listen to someone who is explaining what is going on and then know where to refer them to get help. And then of course, the big one is R. You are not an expert. I am not an expert. I think the only expert on the call is Dr. Pena. And so that's who I would call in this situation if I, even as a facilitator, got to a referral place. And so knowing what your support systems are. I've listed some here that will be on campus, but there's also hotlines. There's also Google, right? Like it's not like we're by ourselves and we don't have phones that can help us find these resources. But for us, a couple of tips is if we have these resources on campus, customize this for them. So in my example, I might say, hey, Carrie, have you been contemplating suicide? Yes. Then I listen and speak with him. And then I ask, hey, can I help you get some help? Well, what does that look like, Andy? Well, I can walk you over to the HCC, and I know that they've got someone that's able to help you in crisis. Or let's go talk to our RA together. Or let's go talk to our RD. Or is there a faculty member that you trust? So whatever your level of comfort is in finding the resource on campus, I advise you to do that because we will then be able to help you get where you need to get. And then the last thing I want to tell you is stay engaged. You don't get to ask the hard question and then just totally walk away from the answer. And so, oh, you're suicidal? Well, let me go to lunch. No, lunch is not important anymore. This is someone's life. So your engagement will go through the listening process, but it also involves follow-up. You know, how do you follow up? Have you got what you need? How you doing? In whatever way that you feel comfortable with that. Next slide, please. So that was a lot of information. And so I'm going to take a break for a few minutes and turn it over to my friend and colleague, Dr. Vanessa Pena, who's going to speak with you about the services available in our Health and Counseling Center this fall.
Thank you, Andy. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you in this moment. What I will be providing you today is sort of what will feel like a quick overview about all the different service offerings we have at the Health and Counseling Center. Next slide, please, Carrie. So the first thing I want to mention to you, because it's so important, is health insurance. So you've likely received some communication from the university already about this important requirement. All students that are enrolled in 6 or more hours at St. Edward's are required to have a form of health insurance. As we are all very much aware, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and it's even more important that we have access to medical services in this time period. And so it's very, very important that you know about this requirement. Now, there's two different ways that we could fulfill this requirement. One is, we know that a lot of you already have medical coverage, either through employment, a job that you may have that provides you with insurance, or maybe from your parents' insurance. What you can do, and a lot of you have already done this, but you can go to My Hilltop and search for proof of insurance and just submit your information so that we know that you do in fact already have a health insurance policy in place. That information will get reviewed, and then we will accept your form of coverage if we feel that it is adequate enough for the needs that are likely to come up for a college student. Your other option is to enroll in our student health insurance plan. So we do offer a student health insurance plan through United Healthcare. To learn more about all the details of what that plan covers and entails, you can go to our health services webpage, and you can look at all of the information that is provided there on the student health insurance plan. You're also welcome to call us at our main number during business hours to ask us questions either about the health insurance requirement or about the student health insurance plan, and we'll be happy to try to answer your question or to point you who the right person would be to answer it for you. We also have an email address set up for insurance questions. That email address is insure@steadwards.edu. So please feel free and reach out. We know that sometimes insurance can be really confusing. And I think that as you navigate this new world that you're entering of being a college student, there are so many things that are important, and we know that. So this is just one of those additional things that we want to make sure you're aware of and know where to go if you have questions. Next slide, please. All right, so now I want to talk to you about health services. So our Health and Counseling Center, or as students call us, the HCC, are working this year to refer students to Baylor Scott & White Health so that they can provide our students with medical services. One of the wonderful things about Baylor Scott & White is that they provide so many different options. So they have full wraparound medical services that they offer, both at in-person clinics or through telemedicine. I think that this pandemic has also made all of us aware of how much resource we have at our fingertips that maybe we weren't utilizing just yet. I will tell you, I had my first telemedicine appointment in the last couple of months, and it was so easy. So if the process of the technology use intimidates you at all, it was super simple to use. And so I encourage you to become familiar with using these types of things like telemedicine. We also are able to get students connected to Baylor Scott & White's downtown clinic. So depending on what your needs are, sometimes you might find that if you have a cough, perhaps that's something that could be taken care of through a telemedicine appointment. But there are certain things that you might need to actually physically go into a clinic for. Something like a meningitis shot, which all of you hopefully got already before coming to St. Ed's. Or there's also things like physicals or STD testing. For those types of things, we would recommend and refer you to the Baylor Scott & White Downtown Clinic, which is located less than 3 miles away from campus. In addition to some of the sort of things that come to mind quickly about our medical needs, you may also need a specialty service, things like dermatology, cardiology. Baylor Scott & White does provide all of those services. And if you have any questions about which clinic, or if you need help just figuring out what type of appointment you need, you can always come to the Health and Counseling Center or give us a call, and we'd be happy to help with that. The other thing I want to mention in regards to Baylor Scott & White is they also have COVID testing available at 3 sites. This is important as we move forward in this academic year. I anticipate that some of us may need COVID-19 testing, and so for that service as well, we will be referring you to the Baylor Scott & White locations. The quickest way to make an appointment with Baylor Scott & White is online. I will make sure and highlight that in a minute, the link to how to get to their online scheduling portal. The other thing I want to point out is, as we talked about health insurance a minute ago, for those of you that do have our student health insurance plan, Baylor Scott & White does accept that. And in fact, we've worked with them to get a very low copay of $15 for your visits with them. I'm sure you have lots of questions. There is a full FAQ on the Health and Counseling Center webpage that we've developed to answer some of those common questions. But again, you know our contact information if you have additional questions for us. Next slide, please. So I mentioned insurance, and now I'm going to talk about it just a little more to give you an overview of how to get connected to services depending on your insurance type. Before I go down explaining this piece, I want you to know that all of this information is on the Health and Counseling Center website, because I know it's a lot. So if you forget anything that I am saying right now, you can always go to our Health and Counseling Center website and read this information. So let's say you're experiencing a cough, or you have some symptoms where you're not feeling so great. The first thing we want our students to think about is scheduling a telemedicine appointment. Specifically right now in this pandemic, we want students to get access to resources quickly, and telemedicine is the easiest and safest way to do that. So depending on whether you have our student health insurance plan or if you have a different plan is how we recommend you get started. So through United Healthcare, if students have that student health insurance plan, they already have access to telemedicine at no additional charge. So you would be able to log into that United Healthcare account and schedule your appointment. For those of you that have any other insurance provider, again, the referral will be to the Baylor Scott & White clinics through telemedicine to get started. And then from there, the medical provider will, ask you a series of questions depending on your symptoms and what you're reporting. And you may be completely satisfied and gotten what you needed through your telemedicine appointment. That is the hope. If not, they themselves will let you know that you should probably make that in-person clinic appointment. At which point, we want all of our students to know that Baylor Scott & White's clinic is ready to serve you for those needs. Of course, we also want to remind you that if you find yourself in a medical emergency, we do want you to call 911 as opposed to going the telemedicine route. And the other piece I want to highlight, as we're talking about referring students to a clinic that is a little less than 3 miles from here, we still know that it's important to have transportation. For some students, transportation may be a challenge if you don't have your own vehicle. So what we have established is the Health and Counseling Center has established a relationship with Lyft. So if a student needs transportation to get from St. Edward's to the Baylor Scott & White downtown clinic, we'd be happy to set you up with a Lyft ride that would be at no cost to you as a student, okay? The university will be covering that charge. And our clinical case manager here at the HCC, her name is Veronica. She is amazing, and she's very skilled at connecting students to what they need. And in this case, one of those things is transportation. So she will work with you to get you connected to that Lyft ride. Next slide, please. So counseling services. Andy did a wonderful job of talking about some of the common things that we hear from students in regards to mental health needs. And I think that really set a nice stage for this topic, which is talking about the services that you have accessible to you as a student at St. Ed's. So first off, I want to mention the importance of crisis support. As Andy mentioned, it is not uncommon for students to have suicidal thoughts or to feel completely overwhelmed to the point where they're having issues functioning and maybe even getting out of bed. My point is not to alarm you, it is to normalize that this does happen at times. And while college, I think, really brings us the opportunity to have some amazing experiences, it can also bring on some big challenges too. So in regards to crisis support, I really want you to know that the Health and Counseling Center is here for you. So during business hours, we prioritize crisis support, and we make sure that there's a clinician available to talk with the student if they are in crisis. So during business hours, a student can come into the HCC, and we will establish a meeting for you with a clinician so that we can check in, talk with you about what's happening, what you might need, and think about whether we need to engage in a safety plan, or maybe reaching out to friends or family, or making sure that we set up a good plan for you so that you know what to do if these feelings and emotions and thoughts that you're having increase, and then also so that you're aware of our resources. I will go ahead and mention after-hours support. So we also have a counselor on-call system. So between my counseling staff and I, we rotate being on call after hours, so that if a student finds himself in a state of crisis and needs to speak with someone, what you would do is you would call the university police and let them know, hey, I really need to talk to the counselor on call, and they will connect you to us. We're a small team, so I think that as you complete your time here with us at St. Ed's, you will likely see our faces around campus or in Zoom meetings. And so I think that also helps to know that we are the people that you'd be talking to after hours if you needed us. So because we are in a pandemic, we really had to be in mind, health and safety. I will get into the details of that in a minute. I do want you to know that counseling is offered at no charge to you as an enrolled student, and we also do not bill through insurance for counseling services. The other two pieces that I really want to highlight for you right now is clinical case management. So you heard me talk about Veronica and her connecting students to resources, so that she is available to you for that purpose. There are times where we know that a student needs more than what our short-term model clinic can offer. So sometimes students are battling with things like substance abuse, or being a part of a recovery process. Or if a student is experiencing symptoms of something like an eating disorder, which we consider pretty serious, and we want to make sure that you get the adequate support for. We would want you to engage with a clinician that could provide you with weekly counseling, or maybe even more than that, depending on the level of treatment that is needed. So that is what our clinical case manager does. She connects students to those resources when what we may be able to supply in-house is just not enough. And it wouldn't be the right thing for us to try to kind of bridge some of that in the moment. Of course, we do what we can. But again, if we know that in our own clinical judgment that the support that you need is beyond what we have here, we'll make sure and get you connected to those resources. The other piece I want to highlight is counseling drop-in workshops that we are launching this fall. So every year we think about what are the most common things we're hearing from students that we believe they would really benefit from having some group support around. So workshops and groups consist of having a trained clinician facilitating that workshop or group, and then having various student members in there that can not only offer support, but I think that it really helps in some cases to know that you're not the only one struggling with that common concern. Some of the topics that we've established we'll be offering services for this fall is we'll be having a coping during COVID workshop that we think will be really helpful to students. In fact, in the spring, we put together a document with a bunch of different coping strategies, and it still lives on our health and counseling website. So if you're interested in getting a head start, feel free to go to our main webpage and click on our LiveWellSEU Coping During COVID document. We'll also be launching a student of color support group for students. I think, as Dr. Kirkpatrick mentioned, we know that this is such an important year. We're in an election year, and there's just been so much turmoil in the world that we know that we need that additional layer of support. And so that is one of our other offerings, as well as groups about relationships, one of the most common reasons that we see students in distress is related to romantic relationships or family relationships. And so we'll make sure and address that one as well. And then the first semester can be challenging for some in terms of getting connected to others. That is what we've commonly heard, especially from our incoming freshmen in the fall semester. And I think that this semester is also unique, right? It's got additional challenges in there that we want you to be aware of, but also know that we've put together resources for you so that you can get that support that you need. And so we're hoping that you will check out our website to see what's the latest on all of our different updates and offerings, as well as following us on our newly established social media channels. Next slide. So in a quick little recap, I know I've told you a lot, but I want you to know, how do I get started? You know, I've mentioned so many things to you. So for health services, you can go to the Baylor Scott and White Health page for online scheduling. For counseling services, call our main number during business hours to get started. And again, if you're in need of crisis support, you're more than welcome to come in to the office during business hours for that, or to reach us by calling UPD after hours. Thank you guys, and I look forward to getting to know you, and please reach out if you have any questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Vanessa. So for the final few moments that we have, you guys, I'm gonna give you some updates for the Department of Recreation and Wellness, and then turn you loose. And I will potentially go through this quickly in an effort to keep you guys on time. But please still feel free to populate the Q&A with questions, and we will stay on as long as we need to make sure that we get to those. And Vanessa, I want to call your attention to a couple that were put in there during your presentation that I think you can answer directly. Next slide for me, Carrie. So for recreation and wellness, let's start with the big guy, our brand new Recreation and Athletics Center. This is home to a number of student recreation and wellness services. The RAC has a number of amenities for the entire student body to enjoy. I want to make sure that we reiterate that, the entire student body. So everybody on this call, plus all of my upper class, are invited and encouraged to come out to the RAC, because it is your home for wellness services in some regards. Next slide, please. The RAC renovation was completed in December of last year, and our grand opening was held January 13th, which means that's correct. We were open exactly 8 weeks before the COVID-19 pandemic forced us to close the doors. What that means is you have a brand new recreation and athletic center to access, and the services and resources in that space smell as new as they did when we installed them in November. And we've been preparing that space for you guys over the last couple of weeks. As you take a look at the images, we want to make clear that these resources, again, are for all students. Bear with me, I lost my headphones and turn it back on, but as the home, the RAC is not home to our varsity athletes only. So no, being a high school athlete is not a pre coming over to the RAC and getting involved. Next slide, please. The resources in the expansion were designed and constructed with the general student in mind. So from the new fitness center layout, where you see images of folks working out in a new weight room, to the selection of the equipment that is very user-friendly, to the most beautiful yoga studio in the state of Texas. I'm biased, but I'm also right. You can see an image of that at the bottom left, also at the top right. That's kind of the showcase piece for the facility. We also have rooms for you to take a nap that you saw an image of. It's indeed much more than just a weight room. It's a home to anyone looking for some recreation and wellness in their lives. Simple. And shouldn't that be all of us these days? I kind of feel like it should be all of us these days. We all need a little bit of fun, recreation, and opportunities to live well. Next slide. So the expansion project included a new fitness center with the brand new equipment that I referenced, the aforementioned best multi-purpose fitness studio in Texas. You can see it there. That faces east. That's your main building. And yes, we have Sunrise Yoga. And yes, it will be in person. And yes, you will be able to take that this year. We have a new wellness seminar room for health education workshops, a tech-free wellness lounge where you can disconnect, which we know is going to be really important this year. One-on-one coaching for our wellness coaching program, I'll give some details on, as well as a new spin studio, which you may not be able to utilize this fall, but you will be able to utilize all of these resources over the course of your career at the Hilltop. So there may be some adjustments this first fall semester, which makes sense as we learn how to provide these services to you, prioritizing safety, but just reminding you that these resources will be accessible. Next slide. And so yes, the RAC is also home, in addition to all these wonderful resources you can access, it's home to the Recreation and Wellness Department. Our staff of 4 professionals and over 70 students work hard to bring you a number of services in a safe manner. As you might expect, given the current COVID challenges, some of these facilities and programs are going to have adjusted plans this fall. But fear not, we're providing you a number of ways, both in person and virtually, for you to live well. So we want to talk about some of those this fall. Next slide, please. The most common question, rightfully so, has already been, so how do I get to use the brand new expansion? I want in. And we want you to come over, and we want you to come in here and be with us, because we know healthy lifestyles and healthy bodies are key to having good immune systems, getting plenty of rest, feeling energized, and reducing stress, which will be really important, especially this year. To access the RAC, please note our hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6:30. We may expand those as the year progresses, but that's where we will start. In order to come into the RAC for anything, you will need to bring your SEU ID. You will need to bring proof of completion of your daily health screening via the Toppers Safe app. And when you enter the RAC, you will wear a facial covering at all times, whether we're in the weight room, fitness studio, or in a health education workshop. The fitness center itself, the weight room, we are requiring you to reserve your workout block. Workout blocks are available every hour and a half. The workout block time is 1 hour and 15 minutes, which will allow 15 minutes for my staff to clean between individual groups of workout blocks. You can find the online reservation system via the RecWell Task Center on My Hilltop. You can just simply log into My Hilltop and type in the search bar RecWell, and you will be able to see all of the things that you'll be able to do with us, but you will also see reserve your spot in the RAC Fitness Center. A couple of policies for you to note. The capacity max in the fitness center is 8 per block. Reservations for the first week of class will open Sunday at noon. So if you want one of these blocks, I think they will go quickly, and I think you need to snag them first. You are the first group of students that know that the reservation block system opens Sunday at noon, because we want to make sure our first-time students can get into this space. Access is limited to students only. There will be no faculty and staff in the space with you. And again, I've referenced the enhanced cleaning between the workout blocks. Next slide, please. Now take a look at our club sport and recreational sports programs. For those that like their sports and team activities, RecWell sponsors a nationally recognized club sport program. Between the club sport and rec sport departments that you see here, we have a combined office called Competitive Sports. Our club sport programs, these are student organized sports teams that compete intercollegiately across the country. These teams hire their coaches, play in leagues, compete for regional and national championships, and build what we believe to be the strongest communities on the Hilltop. With over 300 club sport athletes, SEU has the largest percentage of student club sport athletes per general student body in the state of Texas. Club sport teams range from rugby to men's and women's lacrosse, to a competitive indoor climbing team, to a competitive co-ed crew team, to men's and women's soccer, and so many more. Club sports is also home to our University Spirit program, where we sponsor the SEU dance team as well as the SEU cheer team. Both of those programs compete at a national level, so it's not just about spirit only in those environments as well. Students expect a high level of commitment when they join a club sport team. All club teams are required to host open tryouts. So no matter your background, no matter your level of experience, club teams are required to allow you to try out for those programs. Many of those programs want people who have never played the sport before. There's not a lot of high school rugby, and so anyone that's available and willing to play, the rugby team's happy to have you out there. For club sports, I say this is your home if you, 1, love being part of a community, 2, liked sports in high school, 3, wanted to play in high school but never did, that would be me, and 4, want to try something new. Our rec sports are designed with one word in mind. One word only, is fun. These activities are open to any and everyone. Your goal is to build connections with students in a health and safety environment. What you might see in a rec sports event would be a punt, pass, and kick sports competition. We're going to do small team and individual competitions like an on-campus 2-on-2 sand volleyball tournament. The photo you see there is a picture of our university's e-games arena, but the recreational events program has a lot of e-games tournaments planned for you to be involved as well. Next slide, please, Carrie. Let's show you a little bit about our wellness services and highlight our peer wellness coaching program. I want to make sure that all students on this call are aware of that program. Through the peer wellness coaching program, students work one-on-one with trained upper-class student peer coaches. The coach will work with you to identify specific wellness goals you may have and help you create a plan to achieve those goals. Our most common topics we work through with students include adjusting to college life, getting connected with others on the hilltop, learning how to effectively manage your time, dealing with stress, making friends, overcoming obstacles, and dealing with relationships. Our coaches are trained to help work with you in positive psychology and motivational interviewing, and they are not, repeat, they are not counselors. And so if we were to get you in a situation where you needed advanced counseling from Vanessa and her team, our coaches are trained to get you referred immediately. I cannot emphasize this enough. As you embark on your college journey, I want to encourage you to work with one of our PWCs. This semester especially, as we're all adjusting to this new way of living on campus and living well together, there's going to be a number of obstacles in our way. I think a PWC can be instrumental in helping your new students get acclimated and to help you develop a plan for success. These are not adult success coaches, but this is a student who has been through the same experiences that you are about to endure. And so I want to reemphasize to you guys, get onto my Hilltop, get on the RecWell Task Center, and go ahead and sign up for Peer Wellness Coaching. We'll work around your schedule to start working with you to set some goals. Next slide, please. And then the last thing I want to bring to your attention around our programming is our fitness program. It's one of our more popular programs. This fall, we're going to offer a number of ways for you guys to be active and engaged in the fitness program. Group exercise classes are fitness classes taught for our community by nationally certified instructors, most of whom are fellow students. This fall, we're going to offer both in-person and virtual class options to meet your level of comfort. Formats include spinning, yoga, Zumba, boot camps, spin and sculpt, body toning, and ab blasters, and so many more. Our full Group X calendar will be available starting September 8th, but starting next week, we will have some sample classes that you'll be able to reserve a spot in and come take class with us. Attendance at any live class, whether it's in person or Zoom, will require pre-registration using IM Leagues via the RecWell Task Center in My Hilltop. So again, I encourage you, get on My Hilltop, find the RecWell Task Center, and this is where you could say, oh, I want to sign up for a Group X class and reserve your spot with us for a yoga class next week. In addition to SEU created fitness content, you see a reference to Recreation 2020 movement. This is an initiative with over 100 universities across the country, and by signing up for this, which is free, you will have access to over 500 classes each week from a number of virtual formats. There will be both live classes from different universities as well as pre-recorded content. So if you want to take a Zumba class from an instructor at Harvard, we got you covered. We have that available for you to whatever level is your comfort. And so last, what I'd like you to bring to is our social media. Last slide, please, Carrie. I think, skip this one. We don't need this. This is pictures of RecWell. I apologize, guys. There we go. This is what I want to do, interest of time. So the RecWell Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube channels are listed here, as are our health and counseling channels. For anyone who joins or who follows us on Instagram or Twitter or subscribes to our YouTube channel between today and the end of the day, you will be entered to win a raffle for an Outdoor Voices gift card or some wireless headphones. I promise your headphones will work better than mine. But we really encourage new students to follow us on these channels so that we can give you updates on RAC facility hours, Group X programs that are available, reminders to get a wellness coach, and ways to engage not only with RecWell, but with the Live Well initiative as a whole. So please, by all means, grab your phone if you're watching now, cancel out of the Zoom and go find us. And in closing, I want to thank you, number one, for the patience to stay with us till 10 minutes after 2. Thanks to my friends and colleagues for joining us and providing this information. I want you to have a great semester. I'm going to pop open the Q&A and see if there's any specific questions we can have, but we recognize that people got places to go and anchors to do. And so I'm very excited to have you on the Hilltop. I know Vanessa's as excited as I am. We know how excited Carrie is, and all of us wish we could be as excited as Dr. K is. She has a level of energy that motivates us, and I know will motivate you guys. So we're in it together. You're part of our family. We're so happy you're here, and let's live well together. And let's check these questions. Can I access the RAC if I live off campus? Daisy, yes, absolutely. So you will be able to, again, go to my Hilltop, find the RecWell Task Center, and as long as you reserve a workout time in the RAC, we will see you on Monday starting at 8 a.m. So that answered Daisy, so I answered that live. How do we sign up for club sports and other organizations? Eugene, I would recommend that you visit my Hilltop and look for RecWell. I also suggest, Eugene, that today you log on to Collegiate Link and take a look at all student organizations. And so you will find club sports organizations there. You'll find RecWell programs and activities on Collegiate Link, but you'll also find a huge catalog of programs and organizations provided by the Office of Student Involvement that Carrie oversees. That includes stuff by Student Government Association, our academic-based student orgs, our identity-based student orgs. So Eugene, that would be where I would go and start making those connections now. Presley wants to know if we will have Hillfest. I don't remember that answer, but Lisa, I think that's a no, but I cannot remember if there was a virtual change. I'm sorry, that's 2 weeks.
No, and I'm going to punt to Carrie because it's a chance to talk about all the things, Carrie.
I will. Thanks, Andy and Lisa. President, I hope you saw my answer. Right now, we will not have Hill Fest, and we are waiting until our situation gets a little bit better before we can be able to manage a crowd the size of Hill Fest. I would love to be planning Hill Fest right now. Whenever we get better guidance on the regulations around the state and federal, we will certainly begin that planning process and try to make it happen when we can. And to Eugene, you can also, thank you, Andy, for mentioning Collegiate Link in our involvement page. Eugene, you should have received several emails from us from student involvement talking about getting involved in Welcome Week as part of our office, and we invite you to come visit us in Ragsdale Suite 304. We can set you up with one of our involvement coordinators to talk about all of our student organizations. We will be hosting an involvement fair pretty soon. That way you get to know all the student organizations and all the ways to get involved on campus.
Eugene, for the club sport perspective, we are hosting a virtual club sport fair next week. And I encourage you to follow all of us on social media. That's the primary way that we will be able to communicate information as well. And we'll do the same thing with all of our channels to elevate what the involvement fair experience will look like. Is there a recording available for people that may have missed or wish to review parts of this seminar? I see that it's being recorded, but Carrie, you want to share where it's going to live?
The recording will be live and it will be on our YouTube page, and I will also send it out to all the anchors participants.
Kennedy asks, is the fitness center free membership? That's a great question. I forgot the most important thing. All of the RecWell amenities that were mentioned today are going to be free for the fall semester. And so yes, those will be free. In your time at St. Edward's, you may witness us, prior to the semester, we had charged for our Group X program. We have eliminated that charge this semester since it's such an odd semester, but that may return. So for specific activities, you may have a small fee associated with them. However, for this semester, no, we're trying to remove as many barriers as we possibly can because we know that some exist to prioritize health and safety. And I believe there was a question, do we have to wear masks while using the gym at the RAC? I assume so. Yes, Noah. So for all of RecWell programs, you will be wearing a facial covering. The only exception to that, some of our Group X classes will be held outside. If we can establish 20 by 20 square blocks for our participants in that environment, we may allow the removal of a facial covering, because an outdoor yoga class in September with a face covering is not really safe. But we've got to make sure that we distance appropriately. But I think the easiest way to plan for your fall is I will wear a face mask no matter what I am doing as it relates to RecWell activity. Emilio, I'm seeing the question, what are the requirements to access the RAC student ID? And then make sure you have the Topper Safe app on your phone and that you have completed your daily health screening. Both of those things will be checked prior to you coming into the facility. In addition, you'll have to have reserved your workout block or your spot in that Group X pass. Paul, you could not find the reservation for Monday because they release on Sunday at noon. They will release every Sunday for the upcoming week, and you'll be able to book your entire week on that Sunday. On the RecWell, which facility do we select for the weight room? Fitness center. You're not requesting the use of a RecWell facility. You should have clicked the tile that says reserve a time in the RAC Fitness Center. So Saeed, sorry if I mispronounced your name, but if you click on reserve a RecWell facility, you need to go back and click reserve an RAC Fitness Center reservation. Angel, the cleaning staff at SEU, yes, we all have proper PPE. The custodial staff is masked up with facial coverings like the rest of us when they're getting into various facilities. And they are also gloving up, as well as the RecWell staff that will be cleaning the RAC behind our users will be wearing facial coverings and gloves the entire time they are on shift. And I think that got them all. Awesome. Okay. Well, once again, thanks for joining us again, guys. We appreciate you very much. We look forward to seeing you virtually and in person, and it's going to be a good year, and let's take care of each other. Toppers up for a healthy hilltop, yo.
Great job, y'all. Thank y'all so much for supporting Anchor. It's been a crazy week.
Sorry about the computer, y'all. Whatever.
And sorry if I talked for too long this time.
I'm telling you, I think everybody did awesome. Carrie, it was almost like Andy planned to go off.
I know. I had already taken myself off mute. I was like, do I? And then Carrie started. I was like, all right.
I couldn't see you. I thought you were going to do it. And I was like, oh, I can't see the pictures now because I'm on my one screen.
Hey,
it was funny, Carrie, when you were like,
are we done here? Because there's still 134 people on this.
I know.
No, we are done. No, it's still 134. They're listening to us banter. Hey, y'all.
Oh, they
really?
are?
That's great.
Well,
Good.
now you know we really are family.
Well, hang on. I missed Brian's question. I don't know if Brian's still there. Y'all can still hear me. Brian, this semester you are not allowed to bring non-students to the RAC. We are students only. So we are
even employees can't work out there.
Correct. So it's just you, buddy.
It looks like we have a question in the chat as well. Alejandra.
I answered it.
Okay, you visited. You answered.
Yeah, she said, "Can I visit campus if I am not going this fall 2020?" I assume she meant she's taking online classes. So I said, "Yes, you can come to campus, Alejandra. We ask that you engage in the daily screenings through the Topper Safe app, like we all are doing beforehand, just to ensure everyone's health and safety."
It could also be some of our students may not start till spring, but they still check out the campus, and I think they would still do the digital screen, right? And
yeah, visitors are asked to do that as well. Yeah, I assume she was enrolled though, since she's a part of Anchors, but maybe I'm.
Yeah.
Hi, William.
Yep.
All right. Yep. Gonna go finish staff training. I kind of want to make these 100 people watch us keep it bantering. But no, I got to roll. But thank you, Carrie. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
See you all tomorrow.
Oh, thank you for everything.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all. Have a good weekend.